I'm James, and this is Action and Adventure Tips, the place where you, the content creator, can come to make sure that when you're creating content, be it writing, game development, or film directing, that you get it right. So, today's topic, basic firearms terminology, part 1. So, when you're creating content, you're writing it or you're speaking it as an audiobook narrator, you want to make sure that you get it right. So, I'm going to cover a few of the things that some people, like AI, definitely don't get right yet. So, first thing is the 45. I don't have one with me right at the moment, but the 45 is typically spelled .45 or .45 caliber. Look in the screen. But when it's spoken, you as a narrator are not going to say .45 or .45 caliber. Instead, you're going to say 45 or 45 caliber. Something similar with the 9mm. When you write it, it's 9mm, but when you speak it, it's 9mm. Now, it doesn't matter if you're writing narrative or dialogue when you're using this stuff, because you can actually use the same way in the narrative and the dialogue, and people will translate it. So if you say 9mm in the narrative and then say 9mm in the dialogue, most readers are going to understand that you're saying 9mm. But if you actually say 9mm during an audiobook narration, that just sounds awkward. Don't do it. Go with 9mm. Just like you don't say .45, instead you'll say 45. So, some other common things that are used. 7.62 or 762 as we say it. You're going to spell it out, you're going to write it out 7.62, but you're going to say 762. You might have NATO at the end of it, NATO standing for North Atlantic Treaty Organization, and we'll get into that later on. But if you see 7.62 NATO as a narrator, you say 762 NATO. Other calibers are the 5.56 millimeter. You'll just say 556 or 556 millimeter. If it's a .308 caliber, you'll say 308. And if it's a 30-06, that's how you say it, 30-06. It's actually written .30-06. But because it was developed back in 1906, the odd years as they call them, AUGHT or OUGHT, that's where it gets the .6 from. So it's a 30 caliber rifle that was designed and used in 1906 initially, hence the term 30-06. Now, basic firearms, one of the most common ones is the M1911 or 1911. When you spell it M1911 or just 1911. When you pronounce it, in dialogue or anything like that, you're going to say 1911. Now, if you're writing it, you're not going to write 1911. You're just going to write 1911, the numerals. That's it. Readers will understand. Another one that initially confused me as a kid was seeing everybody talking about the bar. It's like, what the heck is a bar? Why do they have a bar as a gun? What the heck is that about? Well, it's not a bar, it's a BAR, which is short for Browning Automatic Rifle, which was a light machine gun developed in the late 19-teens and saw extensive service throughout World War II by the U.S. military and in Korea. So you can spell it as BAR, but here's a tip. The first time you use it, you write it out, Browning Automatic Rifle, and maybe even describe it. Because there are a lot of kids who are just picking up historical fiction, World War II stuff. They don't know what a BAR is. You probably don't know what a BAR is. I've never held a BAR, although I have seen pictures of them and seen them in museums. So another group of letters that you might see appended to the 45 is ACP. As a narrator, you don't say 45 ACP. It's 45 ACP. It's short for Automatic Colt Pistol, for the Colt Automatic Pistol, which was the M1911 or the 1911. I've covered this in another video, but magazine, and clip. You can use them interchangeably in dialogue, but in the narrative, a mag is called a magazine, a clip is called a clip. The clip feeds the magazine feeds the firearm. Remember that little tip. Here's a neat little term too. It's called mag dump. What that basically means is somebody empties the entire magazine by constantly pulling on the trigger. It could be with an M4 or M16 where they just hold the trigger down and it fires all the way, or it could be somebody just firing a Glock rapidly or firing a 1911 rapidly. Well, as rapidly as you can fire a 1911, because they have a little bit of recoil. And what the heck is recoil? Well, as you know, every reaction has an opposite and equal reaction. So when you fire a bullet out of the barrel of a gun, the recoil from that, or the opposite reaction, is to push backwards. So that's what you might feel in your hand, where you feel it yanking, or you might feel it as a kick in the shoulder, as they say. You might have heard the expression, oh, that has a heck of a kick. Use kick in dialogue, use recoil in dialogue, but use recoil in the narrative. Let's see. What about round and cartridge? What the heck? First off, a cartridge is not just a bullet. A bullet is a part of a cartridge. A round is a unit of measurement for how many cartridges you have left. So you might say, I've got a magazine that holds 10 rounds, and what you're saying is, I have a magazine that holds 10 cartridges. It's much easier to say rounds. Most people don't say cartridges. You might have it in dialogue where they might say bullets instead of cartridges or rounds, but never in the narrative. Be sure you understand the difference between them, and I will cover that. So keep away from saying bullet when you mean cartridge, and use round when you're referring to a unit of measurement for how many cartridges. Alrighty. Here's a neat little thing. Full metal jacket versus hollow point, HP or FMJ. FMJ just means that the bullet, that's this part right here, is fully surrounded by a covering, either steel or copper, and usually copper. So this is what they call a full metal jacket cartridge, or bullet in this case. The bullet is the full metal jacket, not the entire cartridge. But if you'll notice on this one, there's actually a little hole in the center. That makes it hollow, so we call this a hollow point. In this case, what I have is a jacketed hollow point because there is a copper cladding around the actual bullet itself. Now, here's a little tip. If you want to try and write military lingo, they use a phonetic alphabet. It's Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, Foxtrot, things like that. You may have seen the movie Whiskey, Tango, Foxtrot. That's phonetic alphabet for what the you-know-what. So when writing in military terms, let's say you're writing 7.62, or you're referring to a 20 millimeter, which is about that big around. It's fired out of a cannon, usually a Gatling gun type cannon, about 3,000 to 6,000 rounds per minute, which is a lot. So in that case, you could actually, instead of saying millimeter, in dialogue, say Mike. If you've ever seen the movie Apocalypse Now, I believe it's Robert Duvall who says, I want a 20 Mike upper. You know what? So there you go. Some basic firearms terminology to get you started. I'll be following this up with a part 2 soon. If you liked it, click the like button. If you can, subscribe to it. Love to have more subscribers. Check out my webpage down below, jamespeet.com. And if you have any suggestions, once again, down below, leave them in the topics. I'd love to hear it. So, stay safe out there.